here we are at the Done and Dusted.
This is the duet for shorting bread. Your metronome is set at 120, and we're in 4/4. Here's your metronome. I'll give you 2 measures, and then we'll just go ahead and start. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, ready, play.
That's the Done and Dusted. So we are finished with your beginning viola case, your beginning part of cracking your viola case. Let's look a little bit at Scarborough Fair. So going on in this series into book 2, you're going to learn other key signatures, and you're going to learn other kinds of notes, like dotted quarter notes instead of just dotted half notes, and more with rests, more with ties, and you'll learn low second finger. So we did high second finger, and then we're going to learn low second finger, and then book 3 has your extended fingers. So in terms of what I want you to figure out is, can you decipher Scarborough Fair, and see if you can play it. So the very first note, do you know what that is? If you guessed that it's first finger on the C string, it is, you are correct. And then where does it go from there? And we have half note. Wow, and what is that note? I'm going to stop you for a minute because I want you to be thinking about what these notes are. So we have D, then 5 notes higher, first finger on the G string. Then where does it go? It goes down a 4th to, okay, good. I'm going to say, so it's an E natural to an F. And then where does it go? There's a rest. Then where does it go? This is for you to kind of decipher and see if you can do some of these. You're going to learn about accidentals, which are things that are written in your music that aren't in your key signatures. They can be naturals or flats or sharps, depending upon what key you're in. But this is all part of book 2. And more exploration. So I want to give you a little bit of a, since this was a super short one, pegs. So the pegs are tapered like your fingers. They're wider on this side and narrower on this side. So when you tune, you need to seat your peg into the peg box. My chair is stuck on the rug again. So let's pretend, let's take the A peg, because yours will look very similar. Say one day you come and your A peg is, and your A is just like, oh wow, this instrument doesn't do that very well. And it's loose, like it doesn't move. Mine doesn't do that very easy. Sometimes they'll unspin and your A sounds like that. When you're using your peg, you want to turn it, and Always pizzicato if you're in your lap like this and you're tuning like this. Push in as you go up. Pretend it's like you're turning a screw into wood, and when you use a handheld like Phillips screwdriver, you have to actually leave some pressure on it as you're turning in order for that to get seated into the peg box. And then you're going to turn each little bit, so you can see that I'm just barely turning that peg. And see how it's raising about a quarter of a pitch every time? And if your peg doesn't hold very easily, you need to take it somewhere and get it adjusted. A wood peg, if it's adjusted well, is amazing. And then you always want to have an external tuner where you know where that pitch is going to. Never overturn a peg. Don't go above the peg. So here's your A. It's a little flat. Then if it's a little flat, you can that fine tuner is going to be useless on that low. The new strings nowadays have nylon cores, the ones that I use on mine. Now I can show you on my E string, because that peg will release and get like where you can't just turn the peg and expect it to stay. See how it flips right back? But if I put a little bit of pressure, and I'm pushing on this side of the neck and putting a little bit of pressure and this is if the peg has released. And it'll release if I don't get it seated in there. And I know kind of what I'm listening for. If you don't know what you're listening for, make sure you have an external tuner that will tell you when you're getting there. I would always pizzicato if you're doing it on your lap like I am right now. The easiest way to tune though is, let me get my tuner up here since we have a few minutes. So I'm going to turn the tuner on, set it here. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. Let me see if you can see it. Yeah, I think we should be able to see that. So I'm going to play that A. I'm a little low, so I'm going to take the peg with the bow. I think the bow is a better way to tune. There we go. And usually you'll put one finger on this side of the scroll and then the other two fingers over here, and that'll give you enough pressure to kind of pull those fingers together. This instrument is adjusted pretty well, so I can tune without having to. And then I'm listening for these wobbles. And when you Pythagorean tune, you're listening for. Do you hear that bada bada bada? Farther away you get, the faster they become in a perfect fifth. And when you're right in tune, they go away. So there he goes, the peg released. uncommon. Now when I play that A, see how it's a little flat again? Whoop. My E went. Flat again. It's not unusual to have to go back over the strings a couple of times. In-depth tuning, don't do that on stage. Try to do that off stage, and then when you get on stage, you just check and make sure you didn't bump a peg or something. Basic tuning. Don't tune the peg too far. Always know your target note. Make sure that you know where you're going to. Don't overstretch these strings. The most common thing that I see at work is people come in and they've broken the string up here, and that usually means that you've tightened the string too tight. They can't take more tension than the pitch that they're regulated for. So once you overstretch them, they're going to break. You want to replace your strings about, I would say, once a year. And if you do every 2 years, you're risking the strings wearing out and breaking on you. And it's nothing more awful than getting in a situation where you're at a recital or something and a string breaks. It's stressful. Performing is stressful enough. Don't add to it. So I would replace them every year. If you're a student, you can get away with some inexpensive steel strings. As you get older, you might want something nicer. And I know when I was playing professionally a lot, I was doing every 3 months to 6 months, I would change my strings out. Especially if we were in ballet season and we were doing, 2 months of ballet rehearsals and performances, such as the Nutcracker, like in December, and then from Thanksgiving to December, we would play nonstop every day, and 2 shows on Saturday and 2 shows on Sunday. And during that time, I would make sure I had a fresh set of strings at the beginning of those. And then if I had a break and didn't play again for a couple of months, if we had a couple of months before we started another performance series, then I would change the strings then. So plan your string changes, but don't let them go too long, or you risk them getting worn out and breaking, and then they just don't sound right either. And then you'll be like, well, why can't I play in tune? It can be that your strings go false. Okay, so I want to talk more because this is the end of the book, but this is the end of the Viola Case, the beginning. You haven't cracked this Viola Case yet, but you've cracked this part of it where you know first position. Go back, play these over again, pull out some new music. Look at the Suzuki viola books. There's nothing in book 1 that you shouldn't be able to play now because you've done this. I wish you well in your cracking of this Viola Case, and have a good week.